for you from Post-Processing Mastery. Now in this video, what I want to do is show you a technique that gets me out of trouble every now and again when for some reason my mind completely spaces out and I either forget to use a filter or forget to take extra exposures to capture the full dynamic range in a scene. So what I'm talking about is, for example, in this image that you can see on the screen here now, for some reason, I don't know why, I guess it happens to all of us at some point, but yeah, when I got home and took a look at these shots, I realized that I hadn't done an extra exposure, which was underexposed, to capture the detail in these extra bright sort of spots over here where the sun is coming up behind the clouds. So the result of which is basically this shot here, which has just got these really bright areas and you can't really do all that much with them. You know, if I just start editing this image and increasing contrast, doing whatnot, you know, following my usual workflow, then all that's going to happen is that these bright areas are probably just going to get even brighter and look pretty bad. So what I need to do first of all, before I do anything else after opening the image, is try and repair what's going on here. So let's crack on with the example. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is add a new blank layer above the background. So all we've got here at the moment is the original image, and the this new layer 1, is empty and just sitting on top of the background there. And next what I'm going to use is the clone stamp tool. So people who are particularly skilled with the clone stamp, you know, there's a very good chance they would be able to kind of use it to fill in these areas and make it look realistic, using sort of other parts of the image to sort of fill those hotspots in. And you know, if I spend a lot of time working on that, then maybe I could do the same. But like I said, it takes a lot of time and sometimes it might not work. So what I'm going to just do now is show you the real quick way of using the clone stamp to fill in these areas. So first of all, I'm going to just make sure I'm on 100% opacity and just make sure this option here, current and below, is selected in the aligned sample. So to get started, the first thing we're going to do is hold down the Alt or Option key on a Mac. And when I do that, you'll notice the cursor changes to this target thing, and what that's doing is letting me choose where I'm going to take my sample from. So if I hold that button down on the keyboard now and left click with the mouse, then that's sampled that area. So that when I now move the brush sort of down here and start brushing into this white area, it's taking the image from that source area and kind of just pasting it into the area that I'm brushing into. Now, as you can see there, that's, you know, quite an obvious dark blob, but that's okay for now. Let's not worry about that. So what I'm just going to do is just go around, just resampling and then brushing sort of gradually into that area, trying to make it as smooth as possible, but we don't really need to worry too much about accuracy at this point in time, and I'll explain why in just a moment. So just kind of mixing that all in. Yeah, that doesn't look anywhere near realistic. So yeah, like I said, don't worry about that for now. So all I'm trying to do is basically cover that area in something that is of a natural color that's occurring around that area. And the next thing I'll do is just, you know, get this bright bit down here in the reflections in the water. So I'll grab a sample point up here and just brush along here, just kind of filling that area all in. And again, doesn't need to be too accurate. That doesn't look very good at all, to be honest, and I'd never leave that there as is. Okay, so the next step, once we've filled those gaps in, is make sure this top layer is still selected and come to the filter menu and choose blur and Gaussian blur. And basically when this dialog box pops up, I'm just going to slide this around until the area, like just keeping an eye up in this corner here on this area that I've been cloning. I'm just going to sort of slide that up until it gets to a point where like it's all just kind of faded into the background. Okay, that probably looks about right around there, about 100 and something pixels. So yeah, I'll just hit OK. And once that's applied, you can see here now the colors are much more evenly distributed, but it still looks like something dodgy is going on. So all I need to do now to fix that is basically bring down the opacity of this top layer, and I'll just kind of gradually slide that slider down there until it gets to this point, kind of around about 50%. You know, if you do this on your own shots, it might vary, but for this shot in particular, about 50% is good, because what's happening now is that color, actually I'll just deselect my clone tool. Yeah, so this color here that's now filling in what used to be just a bright white spot is kind of made up of all the colors around, you know, in the clouds above and below, and the same goes for this area here in the water. And if I just do a quick before and after, then you'll see what the difference is. So this is before, so as you can see there, it's quite bright and distracting. And if I go to the after, it's filled it in with a bit of color, you know, it's sort of kept those same tones that are in that area. You know, what it hasn't done is add back any of the detail in the clouds that was lost with the overexposure. But, you know, when it's a small area like this, I'm sort of happy to kind of accept that, really. Okay, so at this point it still looks pretty good, but, you know, just in case I wanted to really isolate this change into those areas where, you know, where it's needed the most, you know, I might need to, or I might like to add a layer mask to basically brush the effect out of the areas where I don't want it to be applied. So I'll just show you how to do that quickly. Now, okay, I'll click the add layer mask icon. I'll grab a brush and, okay, I'll just go with 100% opacity for now with a black foreground color. I'll just basically brush into this sky around here and the water in those areas where I don't want any of that kind of blurred color to be applied. And might not be evident exactly what I've done there, but if I just disable this layer mask, maybe we'll see the difference here. So that's with the layer mask applied, and so this is the original before I added the layer mask, and this is what it looks like with you know, just covering up those bits around the edges there. You know, so you can use that, play with it, and just experiment and see what looks best. Now, yeah, in this case, actually, if I just go back and undo those changes, in this case, I actually quite like how it's added a bit of that misty haziness to the shot there, just off in the distance. So just to summarize this this particular technique, what I've done is added a empty layer above the background layer. I've cloned the surrounding areas into this overexposed area, and then I've used a high amount of Gaussian blur to basically blur the effect, and then reduce the opacity of this top layer so that it kind of blends in naturally and doesn't look like I've really done anything to it.